Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Mo Nawara in the Midwest. And we are rolling along. We've got a Tuesday night slate here full of games, only one day game that we've got on the slate. So we are going to be bringing you some best bets that we do like in tonight's slate. Make sure you are checking out thelines.com. Mo and gang have plenty of great content up there for you guys. Also getting into plenty of other summer action on top of baseball. So make sure you are checking out thelines.com each and every day. Also want you to like and subscribe to that page. We are bringing you these videos each and every weekday of this MLB regular season. So make sure you are following along with us. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or a DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we have for tonight. Getting into it, as I mentioned, we only have that one day game. Twins are in Cleveland. The Guardians are slight favorites there at minus 115 is where they stand now. The A's are back in New York to take on the Yankees. Lost 9-4 last night. JP Sears on the mound for the Yanks, hosting Frankie Montas. And then we have the Braves headed to Philly. Zach Wheeler on the mound for Philadelphia, giving them a slight edge probably. And Charlie Morton is on the mound for the Atlanta Braves. The Pittsburgh Pirates send the ageless Jose Quintana to the mound, taking on Patrick Corbin, who continues to struggle, although he's looked a little bit better this as of the last week or two for the Nats. Still a very struggling team, as we know. The Sox are in Toronto. Michael Wacha on the hill versus Ross Stripling for the Jays. And then we've got the Mets hosting the Astros, Framber Valdez and Carlos Carrasco in a pretty good matchup there. Probably the edge to the Stros, I would say. And then we do have the Brewers in Tampa Bay taking on Shane Baz. Brandon Woodruff getting the start there for the Brew Crew. And then we are not finishing, plenty more games. We also have that doubleheader then for the Twins and the Guardians back on the mound there. But we are going to then move on to the Marlins. Braxton Garrett is in St. Louis taking on Dakota Hudson. The Cards are pretty big favorites there as well. Cincinnati Reds are in Chicago taking on Keegan Thompson. Luis Castillo on the mound for the Reds, also Cubs favored there. The Rangers, John Gray taking on the Royals, and Jonathan Heasley in Kansas City. Big favorites there for the Rangers as well again. And the Dodgers are taking on the Rockies in Colorado. Clayton Kershaw back on the mound there against Kyle Freeland. So we'll see if there's some juice that we could really lay there on Kyle Freeland. I know we'll be talking about that. The White Sox send the ageless Johnny Cueto to the mounds against the Angels, and Chase Silseth, say that 5 times fast. The Angels are favored minus 130 there on the money line. The Pods are in Arizona taking on Zach Gallen, and the Diamondbacks, Sean Manaea on the mound for the Padres. Tigers in San Francisco, Carlos Rodon, Tarek Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. And finishing things off there, we've got Dean Creamer on the mound for the Orioles taking on the M's, who are favorites. So in this one, I'm going to kick us off here, Mo, with that Dodgers-Rockies matchup that I talked about. You're our man feeling pretty good about the Rockies right now. I know at plus 185, Kyle Freeland and the ageless Kershaw, who potential for maybe for some regression. What are you looking at in this one? Why do you like the Rockies?
Yeah, kicking myself yesterday. I had the Rockies as value the night before, but I thought it was like close enough that I just skipped it because I thought they were going to get wrecked by the Dodgers, but didn't trust my numbers. Should have just trusted them. Rockies got the W in extremely impressive fashion. Going with the Rockies today, I do think so. Kershaw's history in Coors isn't the best, actually. Surprisingly, he's had some huge outings against the Rockies, but I think most of them came at home. 4.57 ERA in 24 starts in Coors. That's obviously like a run and a half worse than his career ERA. And I think we might get a lot of Dodgers middle relief in this one because Kershaw really seems to be they seem to be just kind of keeping him on ice for the postseason. He's being limited to around 80 pitches, it seems like. He really hasn't gone far past that this year. So if that's the case and he only goes like 5, I don't think the Rockies should be this big of underdogs against what has been a pretty unimpressive group of Dodgers middle relievers. Colorado also hits sliders pretty well. They're 10th in baseball against sliders. That's huge against Kershaw. He's using his slider about as much as his fastball in a lot of cases. And then, Kyle Freeland, he's actually been pretty solid in Coors. His ERA is actually a hair better than Kershaw's. 6% barrel rate. He just induces a lot of weak contact. And I also like that. The Dodgers or the Rockies are getting a couple of their lefty killers back in the lineup. Chris Bryant, Reynold Grichuk's been back in there, and I've been saying all year that fading the Dodgers when they face lefties has been profitable. And when you look at the numbers, they're definitely a lot worse against lefties. They're still above average, 105 WRC plus, but they're up closer to up closer to 120 WRC plus when they're facing right-handed pitching. And when you look at their lineup, it makes sense. It should be a better lineup against right-handed pitching. So I think this line is honestly fine in a regular venue, but I just think what the weirdness Coors brings, Rockies home field's been historically quite a bit better, and Kershaw hasn't had a ton of success there. So I do think Rockies are a little too big of underdogs. I think maybe more like I had Dodgers closer to like minus 170.
So what you're telling me is you're going to listen to the numbers tonight, which makes sense. And I would agree. I mean, a little bit more so, right? I think, at least for me, what I'm looking at in terms of why I would target Kershaw right now. I mean, his numbers in the 8 starts, obviously, if he's been healthy in the last 3 or 4 years, he's a good pitcher. He's maybe not the exact same pitcher. As you mentioned, some of his breaking stuff isn't quite as heavy, but I mean, 8 starts this season and an ERA right at 2. You know, the xERA, the xFIP definitely show some negative regression is likely to come. The other stat that I would target to pick on Kershaw tonight is he's only allowing 0.6 home runs per 9 right now. However, he does have a pretty ridiculous fly ball to home run ratio, or excuse me, home run to fly ball ratio, where the ball's not leaving the park. But if you keep giving up those fly balls at a rate that's a little bit higher than he has in the past anyway, then this would be that moment that you kind of see maybe one of those Kershaw blowups a season that's been there forever, but it's usually 1, maybe 2. I would say this is ripe for that moment for him to really sort of explode out of those numbers that he's been playing so well, and maybe a little bit of that negative regression. Obviously, Colorado much better at home in terms of their offense, all over the place. Their batting average and OPS way up at home versus on the road. And then the Doyers, you mentioned just bad against, not the same against lefties, not bad against lefties, bad for a lineup when you look at the names in it against lefties for sure. So, I would like that 11 total run total there is ridiculous, and not something that I would even really consider touching if you do think there's some possibility that some balls are leaving the park tonight. So I'm going to move us on to Pittsburgh, who is in Washington. A couple teams I don't really want to watch play baseball necessarily, but Jose Quintana is on the mound with potentially a little bit of an edge maybe against Patrick Corbin, who, as I mentioned at the top of the show, been a little bit better over the last week or two in the last like 2 or 3 starts. But still at this point, an ERA above 6.6. So start me off here with this one. Pittsburgh, Washington, Quintana still got that high ERA as well, especially on the road. What are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, I tried to take Corbin for once in his last start. Didn't work out for me. Going back to fading him, that's been better for me. I don't know how Quintana's been doing it, but he is. StatCast is not impressed at all. I think they have him like a mid-5s ERA, but he's definitely doing some things right. 4.12 Sierra, that's palatable. 86.6 exit velocity, that's very good. And 11.9% swinging strikes, that's like right around league average. So I think he's like not too much worse than an average arm right now. Where Patrick Corbin, I mean, we have 300 innings at this point that he just hasn't been able to pitch to his peripherals or his projections. The computers still believe he's solid, but I just can't buy it at this point. Just so much sample size where he's just getting shelled. I think he's just commanding poorly in the zone and throwing too much in the zone early in counts. I was looking 67.8% first strikes. That's really, really high. Sometimes that can be a good thing, but when you're this hittable in the zone, throwing a 91, 92 mile an hour fastball, and you can see it in his zone contact rate, it's above 90%. So I think he's just not doing a lot of little things well here that are just contributing to this. He's actually close to the danger zone I was talking about a couple times on this pod. Only 1 mile per hour difference between his exit velocity and his fastball velocity. So that's definitely not where you want to be. And honestly, while the Nationals do have a more talented lineup for sure, I think the Pirates are a little better than their numbers this year because they did have O'Neal Cruz come up. Yeah. He's not going to do as much damage against a lefty, but he's up there. And then Diego Castillo, who was also very, very good in the minors and is a good prospect. This is a much more talented lineup than the group they were running out a couple weeks ago. So I think it's a little... I think the numbers will undersell them just a little bit. So just a little bit of value here. Very small play for me on the Pirates. Not a ton I liked on the board today, but I did think the Pirates were okay at plus.
Yeah, I mean, what if we just fade both of them? And essentially, I don't necessarily love either of their bullpens either, but I think there might be some value if you find it, which I think you can, and definitely head to thelines.com where we are able to help you shop those lines across all these sports bettors. But I would say if you can find over 4 runs or so in that first 5 innings, I don't really like either of these guys very much. I think, you talk about needing 5 runs. They've both been giving up at least 3 runs in their last roughly like 5 or 6 starts. In fact, if you look at Corbin, he's allowed at least 3 runs in 7 of his last 8. And so, while I would consider there to be some value with the Pirates here against a Nats team that's like, I'll always feel comfortable betting against them, especially with Corbin on the mound. Really, with most of their pitching on the mound this season is why I would feel great about it. And with that in mind, there seems to be a little bit of value as well on those first 5 innings for these 2 guys who can't seem to get out of their own way. Neither of them really go much further than 5 innings if they make it that far. Neither of them made it that far in their last start against each other, against the respective teams. So I do think there's an opportunity for some runs. 8.5 obviously still feels a little bit high at times. I'm not really sure what's going on with that dead ball scenario yesterday. Did seem to be some pretty high totals in the majors all around. So, I'm not really necessarily feeling great about the entirety of the game, but I think 4 runs or so, if you can find it close to pretty much even odds, I would say that doesn't feel like a bad bet either. So let's finish things off here, Mo, though. In Tampa Bay, Brew Crew, Brandon Woodruff is on the mound versus the young stud right now, Shane Baz. Kick us off with that one and tell us why you like the Brew Crew.
Yeah, I got down on the Brewers around plus 107. I think they're still plus 100 available. Still looks like a solid bet to me. I just like Brandon Woodruff a lot. He's back off the IL, so I'm kind of wondering how long he's going to go. But he did go 5 innings in his last rehab start, so I think he can still give them 6. And I do also like the setup for their bullpen today. They had a day off, and they also had a large blowout win on Sunday where they didn't have to use any of their good pitchers. So I think they should have their full complement of their top bullpen arms available here. Shane Baz has been rough for me so far. I think losing every bet I place on his starts, but when I was watching him, I think he does seem to have some trouble with his mechanics. He does seem to have to rely a lot on chases, 48% zone rate. The Brewers have a very disciplined lineup. I think they're top 5 in chase rate. And they also get Colton Wong back, which is nice here. They're close to their full lineup, just missing Hunter Renfroe. He's on the IL, I believe. Got hurt again. Rays got Wander Franco back, but still missing Margot and Kiermaier. And the Brewers have been a better lineup against right-handed pitching this year than Tampa Bay. I don't think anyone really expected that, but it's been that way, and I think it will be that way going forward. When I look at some of the names, especially at the bottom of this Rays lineup, it's pretty poor. I also think they rate to have a decent matchup here because Baz is pretty slider heavy, and the Brewers with a pretty heavy left side lean on their lineup, and they're 7th best in MLB against sliders. It looks like a decent matchup for their bats. So I thought, again, plus is pretty good here for me. So still okay to bet this morning, even though the line is moving toward the Brewers.
Yeah, I think, the fact that Woodruff was dealing with an inability to feel his own fingers earlier in the season would probably say why he sort of struggled to begin the season before he had to take that month off. And I think there's probably likely a lot more whip coming to all of his pitches, which will have a little bit more nasty movement to him. So I wouldn't hate an under here. I know it's really low, but I do like both these guys. And I do think, to your point, when you need plate discipline in order to really handle Shane Baz like that, and I would say that's fine. But at the same time, you still need to put the ball in play at the Trop, and I would feel okay about it. But either way, I do like the juice that you get on the Brew Crew there, one of the best teams in baseball right now, and no reason to feel bad about continuing to ride them. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we are bringing you these videos each and every weekday of this MLB regular season. So until we see you next, happy betting.